Hello, I'm Beth. Welcome to this latest video for my VIP yoga series. VIP means Variations on Individualized Practice. So in this tutorial style practice, we will focus on just one pose. I will give you lots of variations so that you can personalize the practice to you. We'll be using a lot of props, so if you want to join me, gather your props. This isn't going to be every option available, but I'll try to show you as many as I can. Today's pose is half pigeon, so that's Ardha Kapotasana. So let's go over to the mat. So I usually begin by showing I say it's called the classical version of the pose, really meaning how the pose is usually shown in classes or in books, or what most people think of when they hear pigeon pose. Half pigeon pose, often shortened to pigeon pose. So if you're following along, let's come to hands and knees. And the instruction is generally to slide one knee forward. And then you want to take that knee to the outside of your wrist, the outer edge of your mat. The foot can come up or the shin can come up so that it's parallel, or that's where I'm going to start. Take the other leg behind me. You can keep the toes tucked, or the top of the foot can come down. So sometimes you'll see half pigeon taught upright like this, and sometimes people will walk their arms out. Let me shift my chair a little bit and come out onto their arms or onto the floor. So that's the class version of the pose. The first thing we can vary in any pose is our limbs, so the position of the arms and the legs, before we even add props. So if trying to get your shin parallel to the front of the mat doesn't feel right for your body, you can certainly slide the foot so that there's more of an angle here and the foot is more tucked underneath you. You can stretch the arms out like I showed. You can stack your arms underneath you. You can walk your hands in closer to your body or even resting on your front shin so that you're more upright. So lots of options for where you place your arms and your legs in this pose. And toward the end, I'll show you even an alternate leg position. Now we'll start to add some of our props in. So the first thing is that this hip might feel uncomfortably up in the air here. So you'll see I have a lot of things around. I've got some blankets, I've got some blocks, I've got a pillow. You can grab whatever you need. I'm going to try my blanket here. Take my leg back out into that position. Shift the blanket so that gives me some support under my hip. And then that helps me feel a little bit more comfortable in this pose here. And that's what we're looking for. How can this pose feel comfortable in your body? So that's one way to practice. When we add props, we don't have to add just one prop. You can add props together. So I'm going to try the blocks here under my hands. Oh, and this is really nice right here for me because the blanket supports my hip, my buttock. The blocks help me be a little bit more upright in my hands. And move the blocks to the side. And I already showed this option. I'll show it again. Taking the body forward over to the chair is another option. That version feels really nice to me too. Now remember, everybody is different, so your body may be very different from mine in appearance and in feel, and that's why you'll play around with these to find out what's right for you. So I'll slide this chair away and show a couple of other propped versions. I'm going to move the blanket and grab my bolster. If you don't have a yoga bolster, get one. They're great. If you don't want to get one, try a few couch cushions. There are plenty of things that you can substitute. So I'm going to start on sort of all fours again, but this time I'm going to step over into more of a lunge and draw this bolster a little bit back. And so when I slide my shin equal to the front short edge of the mat, I can sit right down, and it's actually easier for me to have a parallel shin in this way. It's not really important. In fact, I can tuck my sole of my foot or my heel a little bit more under the bolster if I don't want to have that parallel shin, so that's fine too. But this feels like a really nice stretch to me. I like this version with the bolster, so that's one you can try. And then you can also have the shin on top of the bolster. Let me switch to the other leg, so I'm giving a little equal love to both sides. I'm coming forward. Now my shin is on top of the bolster. I'll tuck my toes to just stretch that back leg out a little bit more. This feels pretty good too. And again, you have to look for what is right for you. I'm going to move the bolster out of the way and do the same shape that we're doing now, but I'm going to do it with the shin on the chair. All right, so let me take the bolster over here. This is why I love playing with props. There's so many different things you can try and see what's right for you. So we'll come to standing. Actually, I'll come up to standing and then come back down. So come up to standing, taking my shin up, and then taking my leg back down. So I'm right now I'm in kind of a lunge, but if I put my hands on the chair, I can stretch the leg out behind. So you'll see how this more is a pigeon pose shape. All right. Now we're going to go into a kind of a cousin or really a close neighbor of pigeon. It's called figure 4. It's often used as an alternative or a variation of pigeon in yoga classes. So that's why I wanted to show some different versions of figure 4. So for this one, we're going to start standing and come back down. So standing, I'm going to have my blocks in front of me. You might have the wall for balance. In fact, I'll walk a little closer to the wall to have a little bit of a balance here. I'm going to take a little bend into one leg, place the opposite ankle over top, and sit down into that leg. So you're in a little crouch. You can also have your hand on a table or something else for support. So this is called figure 4, and you can see the figure 4 shape with my legs. From here, in this pose, we're getting the same action, which is the external rotation of the outer hip that we get in the more classical pigeon shape, and yet this feels a lot more accessible for many people. So don't be afraid to do a slightly different variation if that's the one that feels accessible and gives you the same benefits. Why force your body into shape that it's not ready to go into? Even in this standing version, as I said, you can hold the wall, or you can sit into it more, and here's where the blocks come in. And have the blocks in front of you and sort of crouch down more into, you might start feeling it in the other hip as well. I feel more here. So less of a balance, but definitely more of a glute stretch here, at least for me. I'm going to ease out of this. I'll put these aside. A little bit of balance there. I'm going to bring over my chair and show you a version of that in the chair. So I'm going to bring the chair and I'm going to slide over both my blocks. And then today I just have a little scarf here in lieu of a yoga strap. So sometimes I like to show that you can use other things that aren't props for props. You can have a scarf, any type of long strap like a strap for your dog leash, whatever. So I'll put that aside for now. So we can also do figure 4 in this pose. And one way to start is to take the leg out straight. Take the other leg on top of it, and you can help it over so that the ankle is above your knee. Already you can see we're in this 4 shape. You can hold on to the chair and drag the bottom leg in any amount. So remember I said your limbs help you adjust the pose. So by dragging the bottom leg in or keeping it more straight, you can adjust the intensity of the pose for yourself. So if it feels more intense and accessible for you to have it here, you can be here. You can also help yourself in a couple other ways. So I'll start with this leg extended. You can have the figure 4 shape, then place the bottom foot on a block on a short stool or table, and that will also maybe help get a little bit more stretch into your outer hip here. And then one more method for doing that is to take your little strap, if you don't have a block, or even if you do, wrap the strap around your thigh. Let's see if I can do this. This is a little bit more balance here. I think this is a little harder because it takes a little arm strength. This may be not a doable version for me, is to lift up and lift the leg up that way. We'll try this again on the floor because it's not happening for me here. Maybe it's not happening for you. Maybe it is. That's why I love personalizing yoga to each individual. All right, put our strap aside. We'll move our chair aside. And we'll come to a seated position. Figure 4 is very customizable seated on the floor as well. So coming to seated, let's start the same way we started seated in the chair with one leg out, other ankle cross over above the knee so it's not right on the knee joint. And then if this is giving you a stretch, great, stay here. If you're finding you need a little bit more of a stretch, lean back onto your hands and drag the bottom foot in any amount. So it can be, I don't know, I have maybe a 90-degree here. It can be more in, and maybe you move your bottom more toward your bottom foot and push into your hands a little bit more. Now I feel that more on this hip, the outer hip there. You can play around with any of the props we already played around with. For example, you can try the block under one foot. And sometimes it's a bit awkward, yet when you get through that awkwardness, you find like, oh, here's the spot for my really good stretch. It's worth it to play around and figure that out for you. All right. So I want to show you one other thing seated, and then we'll do a few things lying. You know I usually end with lying because that's kind of my favorite. So another alternative shape to the original pigeon pose shape that we did first, which had our front leg externally rotated and then our back leg extended behind us, is called 90-90, or sometimes it's called deer pose in yin yoga. So in a 90-90 shape, there are different ways to get into it. I'm going to face you, and I'm going to drop one knee open so that my shin is kind of parallel to the short edge of the mat like I had before. Then I'll drop the other knee open. Right now it's pretty close to the heel of my front leg. If I can, I'm going to slide it back so I'm a little bit more in kind of a 90-90 shape. Now, I just heard somebody call this 90-90-ish, which I loved. If your 90-90 is not 90 angles, maybe you're a little bit more here. The advantage of this is you're still getting the action of the pose. You're getting an external rotation on this front leg, and then you're getting a bonus internal rotation on this back hip. And you can play around with how far apart the legs are, how bent each leg is. And the other reason I love this pose is because you can do a bunch of things with it. You can lean forward as we do in the more classic version of pigeon. You can kind of go in between your legs and look and see for a stretch in both legs. You can spin around the opposite way for a bit of a twist. And you can even lean back into your hands, widen across your collarbones, search for a little bit of a mini upper back bend, all the while getting some great action in your hips. So all those are available to you. Okay, we ready to go down to the floor now? So coming down to the floor, I'm going to bring along my makeshift strap, and then I'll also have one of my blocks. And you see I have different size blocks. This purple one is a little bit less high than the gray one. Feel free to play around with the height of your blocks as well, or books, or whatever you're subbing. So coming down to the floor, you've probably seen this if you've been to class before too. The teacher might say, here's an alternate to pigeon if you don't want to be upright, to cross one ankle over the next. Or sometimes this is just done at the end of the class as reclined pigeon or reclined figure four. It's a really nice stretch. You can keep the stretch right here and it can feel wonderful. You can lift the bottom foot so you draw your legs in, the whole legs in this position toward your body. If that feels difficult, you can take that block and put the block under the bottom foot just like we did on the chair. So that is a more restful way to intensify the stretch here, but you don't really have to put in the effort. If you want to put in more effort, you can take your little strap, wrap it around your leg, and then use that to pull your leg in. This works better for me than it did seating. When you find the right pigeon stretch for you, it can be very rewarding. It can feel really nice. Okay, I have one last version that I want to show you. I'm going to stay on the ground, but I'm going to come over to my wall. So I'm going to feel a little bit flipped around. Same thing as we just did lying down, except now the bottom foot will be right up against the wall. The sole of the foot will be against the wall. So I'm going to slide around so that when my legs are bent into a chair shape, that my feet both touch the wall. You'll see what I mean after I flip around. Okay, so this is like I'm sitting at the wall with both feet on. And then I take the foot, same as we did on the chair, same as we did lying, and ankle over the knee and hang here. Because your bottom leg is supported on the wall, this might be a pigeon you can hold for quite a while, get a really lengthy stretch and release. And as with all the other poses, you can adjust where your limbs are. So you can scoot your bottom closer or further away to the wall so that you either ease up on the stretch or intensify the stretch. All right, I'm going to flip back around so I don't have to look at you upside down. All right, so I think that is it. That is all the varieties of pigeon pose that I have for you today. You'll see I naturally gravitated to this 90-90-ish shape because it's one that feels really nice to me. Here's what I have to remember. I have to remember to try to do it this way because my legs don't naturally go this way as much. Now, if you really like working with different variations of pigeon pose, a while back I did a whole practice on that. I'll link to that for you up here. The sound's not quite as good, so you might try headphones or turning it up on that one. If you like these tutorial practices, respond down here to tell me more about what you would like to see in the future. I'm happy to bring one to you. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your day.